welcome back again in our subject, speaking for social intercultural communication. So, we have in the middle of our semester. So, for the first meeting, I already applied our course online for this subject for one semester. And then this is the time to explore about the real example about this subject. So after you explain by group discussion about the theory for each topic by groups, so this time to practice. Okay, I flashback about our subject. Talking about our subject, we concern about our culture. Even you are familiar with these terms, culture, but you should have many knowledge to know the deeply about the culture itself. So, we live in the society with different people, different characteristics, different beliefs, and then different mindset. So, from these different terms in the society, we make it in the different, but we make it the unity in diversity. So we need this knowledge to have making peace in a different culture. So that I said before that you already discussed these materials for several groups. So for this time, I explain how the way you find out the real example from each topic based on the groups. You have 9 groups in this subject, and then it relates with the 9 topics. So the first group about intercultural communication, you have some subtopics. The first, intercultural communication. The second, the dominant culture. The third one, co-culture. And then the fourth one is society. Next, the group 2, you have 3 subtopics. This is still continue for our chapter 1. A. Reaction to culture shock. B. Phases of culture shock. And C. Beyond culture shock. So, special for group 2, you focus on culture shock. And then, group 3, you have 3 subtopics. This is about ethics consideration. A. Fundamentalism. B. Relativism. And then C. Ethics in intercultural communication. So, because group 1 and 2 already clear enough about the example, because I already explained by voice recording in our online class, so I take one example from group 3. This is only my example. So from you group 3, you should find out another example based on your topics. So the first one is about fundamentalism. This is the area of ethical consideration. As you know that in society, ethical, this is the basic components to get the good communication between you and someone else in the society. So ethic is a number one because this is the characteristic of our people in Indonesia. We have a good ethical to another in a different character. So talking about fundamentalism, this is talking about religion or belief. So don't judge a different religion than you with in the bad value of another religion. What is the example from this area? For example, uh, this is based on my experience. Uh, I live in a different religion here, Muslim or Islam and Christian. As you know, in Indonesia, Christian divide into two, Protestant and Catholic. Even I live in a different religion, we have a good ethics here. We show this good ethics by uh, sharing of foods in the big day. For example, like for the New Year day, I sometimes give some food for my neighbor, which is Christian religion. So sometimes they send me foods again to respond my uh, respond my uh, my my kindness, but they know what kind of food can I eat or not. So sometimes they give me some food products by fabrics, not homemade. So this is something that really good ethics happens in around of my home. The next one is relativism. So relativism, this is closer with about moral. You know, for this globalization era, moral is get the less of the normal position. Why I said this? Because so many facts on our daily life, so many phenomenon about this moral. In the previous time, for the younger, has a good moral with the older in our society. If the younger get meets the older one, she or he sometimes say salam to the older, but for now there is no this moral activities again. There is no salam if you meet for the older person. So this is the condition for now. So because we study about intercultural communication, of course about the culture, so I need you to be aware to get the moral activities among of the society. So the third one, this is about ethics in intercultural communication. So based on our book reference, you have some of points for ethics in intercultural communication. The first one is be mindful that communication produces a response. this is a good points if you read this book on chapter 1 page 16. So this is talking about how the way you treat or you behave your neighbor in the different religion or different culture with the activity in daily life. For example, like this, if you know that your neighbor have a party, example like for wedding party in your neighbor, so you send a regret to your neighbor. This is make your empathy or sympathy that you are happy like them because they have a special day. So this is the activity that you respect for your neighbor. And then another one is about the condition that if your neighbor lost of member of the family, and then you share or you send your condolence of the situation. So this is the points of this ethics in intercultural communication. The second point is show respect for others. This is sometimes this is a simple, but we realize this is seldom to practice. If we respect, that means we cannot do the big thing that we this is more than our energy. I mean that a simple thing but meaningful. Just want to say hello if you meet your neighbor, and then you just say thank you, or you can help your neighbor if they are getting a problem. So this is a little, but the big impact for activity in our daily life in society. So next, search for commonalities among people and cultures. So I take one quote from this book reference. This is from De Genova. He said that no matter how many differences there may be beneath the surface, there are even more similarities. It is important to try to identify the similarities among various cultures. Stripping away surface differences will uncover a multiplicity of similarities. People's hope, aspiration, desire to survive, search for love, and need for family, to name just a few. So, these quotes about ethical component with in the society. Next, you have next point, you have respect cultural differences. That I said before, in Indonesia you have so many different people among of you. Even you live in the different people, you should give the respect cultural differences. So for example, like this, if you go to another city, still in Indonesia, you can get the different contrasts about the activity between one city to another city. For example, like if you go to Binjai to Medan, you get a different about the characteristic in Medan city. Sometimes if you go to Medan, you can get so many traffic jam. So this is about your culture shock if you studied about the culture shock, because this is a different or unusual situation in your home or in your environment, and then you get different activity. That means this is make you getting shock because different activity. In Medan, people are familiar with the traffic jam on the street, and then if you want to go to somewhere, and then normally you can get the area only 1 hour, but you should prepare 2 hours. So this is the condition that you should respect for this one. If you want to getting late, so you prepare a hour or a half minutes before you go. So this is a respect culture differences. Even this is make some noise from you, but this is the reality that you should respect for these differences. Next, accept responsibility for your behavior. Okay, this is about the moral again. This is about if you get the interaction between one to another, and then you get the communication between each other, and then all of you are having a mindset or opinion about something, so please accept it for all of opinion. So because a different opinion with each other, this is not make you getting trouble here in the communication. It makes the unique from this a different opinion, because sometimes you yourself need another comments or opinion or explanation with someone else, because everyone has a unique character for problem solving. So this is you accept responsibility for your behavior to another. So this is about the example in ethics consideration, especially for group 3 that I said before to you. For group 3 members, please find out another example. Don't take or copy paste my example to your group tasks. So next, group 4, this is talking about the voice and echo. Based on our book reference, this is on chapter 2. You have 4 subtopics: A, human communication; B, the uses of communication, defining communication; C, the components of communication; and D, the characteristic of communication. So this is focused on communication. So next, group 5, This is still on chapter 2 about the communication, but a different subtopics. You have 4 subtopics here for group 5. A. Culture. B. The function of culture. C. The elements of culture. D. The characteristic of culture. Okay, this is focused on cultures, but relates in communication. So next, group 6, we jump to chapter 7. So group 6, you have 5 subtopics. This is about culture and identity. A. The role of identity. B. Defining identity. C. Examples of social identity. D. Identity in intercultural interaction. E. Identity in a globalized society. Next, group 7, still on chapter 7, but a different subtopics. You have 4 subtopics here. A. Stereotyping. B. Prejudice. C. Racism. D. Ethnocentrism. Next, group 8. This is move to chapter 8. This is about verbal message. You have 3 subtopics. A. Function of language. B. Language and meaning. C. Language and culture. Next, group 9. This is the last group. And then you discuss on chapter 9. This is about non-verbal communication. You have 4 subtopics here. A. The function of non-verbal communication. B. Defining non-verbal communication. C. Non-verbal communication and culture. And D. Classification of non-verbal. So, that's our topics in our subject, speaking for social intercultural communication. Like in my explanation on the specific course objective, you have 5. After you study this subject, you have 5 objectives of this study. 1. To explore culture, self-awareness, other culture awareness, and the dynamics that arise in interaction between the two. B. To understand how communication process differ among cultures. C. To identify challenges that arise from these differences in intercultural interaction and learn ways to creatively address them. 4. To discover the importance of the roles of context and power in studying intercultural communication. And then the last objective is to acquire knowledge, skills, and attitudes that increase intercultural competency. So that's about the objective of our subject. So now I will explain about the procedure to do the group tasks. That I said before in the previous time that this is the practice. After you study about the theory, so you find out the practice. The practice means you find out the real example around of you based on each category of the topics from your group. So if you see that one group consists of 3 or 4 subtopics, so from these subtopics, you should find each subtopics into the real example. So one subtopics, you find out one example. Okay, I repeat again about the procedure to find out the real example. You should find one example for each subtopics by your group. Okay, so next, now I'm here to get a simple example from your group tasks, but for your own group tasks you can add some resources from your real example from each subtopics. For example, like you can upload the photo, video, or the article that relates with your example, uh, because this is the limit from myself to show you about the adding some information to prove my example. So I need you to get more fact about your daily example for this our practice. uh, Thank you so much for your attention. I think that all of you know what is the point to study our subject. I know that so many uh, advantage and disadvantage about this subject, but you should concern that every subject that you study in the campus relates with your uh, competency based on your uh, based on your uh, based on your capacity. So please be aware for yourself, and then please be kindness for each other. And then after you study here, um, I hope that this subject will help you to get connection uh, with someone else in a good way, based on our studying for one semester. Thank you for your participation today, your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you guys.